Well, if you listen to much of the media and environmental movement, Pittsburgh's and Western Pennsylvania's air quality, they're horrible and they're harmful to health. If you listen to supposed objective experts like the American Lung Association, you hear the region in Western Pennsylvania receives an air quality grade of an F, and that it's worse than the air quality in other cities and urban areas of the nation. But the beauty of air quality is that it can be measured, and it can be assessed using data, not using ideology or biased opinion to drive a favored agenda. And the entity known as Pittsburgh Works Together, which is a Western PA institution that's focused on building a regional economy that works for everybody, Pittsburgh Works Together provided a study on regional air quality that did just that, looked at the objective data. And the results were both interesting and fascinating when compared to the image and the optics of others. But first, some background on Pittsburgh Works Together. PWT, as it's known by acronym, it was created after meetings of building trade union leaders and officials from the manufacturing and steel and energy sectors came together, and the organization banded together to commit themselves to working with leaders of the Western Pennsylvania region and tomorrow's industries to keep the focus on the realization that without everybody, there is no new Pittsburgh or new economy or brighter tomorrow. I love the organization. I work with it quite closely, and it's a collection of regional doers. Let me assure you of that. These are people and building trades and companies that build stuff that allow society and economy to function. It's sort of the coalition of the doers, as I see it. And every region should have something akin to Pittsburgh Works Together. And if that region does have something like it, that region should consider itself lucky. Now, the website for PWT is pghworks.com. And what we'll be discussing in this connection can be found in its entirety on that website. Again, pghworks.com. Okay, so a few years ago, Pittsburgh Works Together, they started to think seriously about why all one hears about Western Pennsylvania when it comes to air quality is that it is horrible, and that industry and manufacturing and energy, they're to blame, and we should shut them down. Now, typically, this demagoguery comes from the elite and environmental movement across government and academia and media, usually tied to those buzz terms that sound good to say, but that in reality are quite hollow without a core economy. You know these buzzwords, the new economy, the knowledge economy, the energy transition, so on. So PWT, they started to assess and summarize and then report on air quality using not opinion and speculation, but instead using data, and comparing the objective data here in Western PA to similar objective data elsewhere across the United States. And PWT calls this report Clearing the Air. So Pittsburgh Works Together first issued Clearing the Air, the first report, version 1.0, a few years back, and it used EPA data and research by others to dispel the myth that the air in the Pittsburgh region is among the worst in the country. That initial report found that the Pittsburgh region's air quality is fairly typical of that found in big city regions around the country, and Western PA air quality might be better than some other urban regions, and it might be a bit worse than others, but certainly not an outlier and definitely not in the negative direction of outlier. The most recent Clearing the Air report is version 4.0. And the 4.0 version of the report uses 2022 EPA data to continue the monitoring and assessment of the region's air quality, which continues to improve year after year. And if you still think that Pittsburgh and the Western PA region have bad air, you better stay away from Seattle and Austin and San Diego, because the air quality at all of those places is worse. Other findings in this report include sort of the assessment that Western PA's average level of microscopic soot, which is known as and is measured by PM 2.5, it continues to decline. That's good news. And the PM 2.5 level at a key air monitor location in the area, which is used to measure the greater Pittsburgh area's compliance with the Clean Air Act, it's met EPA standards for years. And it declined, by the way, 7% in 2022 compared to 2021, and it's dropped over 23% over the past decade. Yeah, the bottom line on Pittsburgh area air quality is that the region has been in compliance with all EPA standards for 2 consecutive years running, and that's for the first time ever. That's great news, right? And it gets even better when you look at the data objectively. The Pittsburgh region is one of the cleanest major metro areas for ozone, which can cause lung irritation and aggravate asthma. The region has less ozone than 74% of the 50 largest metropolitan regions in the country. That's obviously where you want to be. But that's not the storyline that's being fabricated out there by academia and the media and elite circles. The opposite is being fabricated, that our air quality in the Pittsburgh area is poor or that it's horrible. The biggest example and the best illustration of a bad actor is, believe it or not, the American Lung Association, which continues to mislead the public on the region's air quality, relying on limited data and making up its own criteria for its annual assessment. I'll give you an example. The Lung Association has continued to grade the 12-county Pittsburgh region an F as a grade for peak PM 2.5 levels, even though the region has met EPA standards since 2018. And data in the Lung Association's own report shows that many of the counties in the region are among the cleanest in the entire country for that pollutant. So what gives? And this isn't to say that we should be content here in the Steel City. Air quality can and should get better. And there's still a lot of further work that can be done to improve air quality in the region. And there may be communities where the air quality tends to be worse than the region's typical conditions. But we need to act and set policies and establish goals that are based on facts, not fear or feelings. Misunderstanding the nature of the region's air quality, that can lead people to believe that they live in a uniquely bad community and that they're putting their health at risk unnecessarily. And it can send an inaccurate message to people and companies considering living or investing in the region. And mischaracterizing the problem puts pressure on regulators and public officials to solve problems that some people imagine exist rather than problems that actually do exist. Now, all these themes, I think you can sense they fall right into the power alley of the far middle, which is why I wanted to raise it to you constant listeners. So again, check out pghworks.com. You'll be glad that you did, and you'll come away better informed. And whether you live in Western Pennsylvania or whether you're residing somewhere else, the issues, they're timely and they loom large everywhere these days.